Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host as always, Dan, your co-host Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC Copenhagen, Jack Hermansson versus Jared Cannonier, and Shaq is going down this Saturday in Denmark. The UFC leader in ground and pound is taking on the killer gorilla, Jared Cannonier, in the main event.
Yeah, I know you guys have known that I've been hyping Jack Hermansson up for quite some time. This guy arguably has the best ground and pound in the world. We saw what happened in the Tyler Slater's fight back in the day. It was Mac's best season when a rib popped out, and he still smashed the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And then now he's evolved himself, and now he's out here taking guys like Jacare down and staying in their guard and beating him up and beating him on the mat, putting him in that guillotine choke. Between you and me, Jacare definitely thought about tapping, you know what I'm saying? So I think Jack Hermansson's one of the best in the world. And Cannonier, man, he's coming off that win over Anderson Silva. A few years ago, you would have told me Cannonier would have been in these, main event spots that he's been in, recently. I would have told you that you're crazy. But, man, this guy's been getting better since he moved down to 185. It seems like he's finally putting things together. And, his size, those calf kicks like we saw his last fight, the dude's very scary.
It's a very explosive main event. Obviously, with Jack Hermansson, he's a guy we've been hyping since he was on the prelims. Now he's in his second straight main event. And we talk about how, at first when we heard that this guy has the best ground and pound in the UFC, we thought it might be this big joke. Well, apparently it's not a big joke at all, because this guy gets on top of you and he starts landing that ground and pound, man. Guys don't react the same, and not to mention he's got a nasty guillotine that can finish fights as well. If this fight hits the mat, it might be over shortly after. But when you're talking about a guy like Jared Cannonier, talk about a transformation. We saw this guy knock people out at heavyweight. We saw him at light heavyweight. Now he's at middleweight. He really has found his home. 2 straight wins in a row. 2 straight knockouts in a row. Now he's got this main event spot with Jack Hermansson in Europe.
Yeah, man. To go out there and beat a legend like Anderson Silva in Brazil was very impressive. Look, he's the second guy to break his leg, and those calf kicks were crucial.
They really were, man. And I have a feeling that this fight will be the classic striker versus grappler matchup. You know which realm each guy wants to go in. And that being said, we've seen Jared Cannonier get on top of people and pound them out too. We saw Jack Hermansson drop Jacare, so it's not like these guys are raw in the other areas of the game, but we know where they preferably want to get it on Saturday night in Denmark. Shaq, let's break down this whole card start to finish, because first up in the bantamweight division, we got Nohelin Hernandez. He's 10-3, and Jack Shore is 11-0. Currently, they got Jack Shore minus 165. The comeback on Nohelin Hernandez is plus 145. But we've heard a lot of hype about this kid, Jack Shore, finally making that UFC debut, taking on the very tough Nohelin Hernandez. Nohelin trying to bounce back after a loss to Chito Vera. You think he gets back in the win column, or you think Jack Shore makes it 1-0 in the UFC?
I actually bet on Chito Vera in that it was a short notice spot, that Nohelin was taken. And Nohelin, one thing I noticed that on his local scenes fight, the reason why I was comfortable, doing that is because I've seen him get dropped by lesser guys. I've seen him get dropped and submitted by 1 and 2 guys in the past, like in 2017. So, I knew this kid was a very developing fighter. But, one thing I will say, the kid is exciting. He does have some flair to him. He definitely likes to go for flying knees, and he's out here taking pro boxing matches. So in this matchup with Jack Shore, I feel like Nohelin is pretty much in a similar situation that he's in most of his fights. The weakness in his game is either A, his chin, or B, his wrestling. And we saw his last fight that he was able to have Chito Vera on his back. And Chito, I wouldn't say he has bad wrestling, but he's more of a jiu-jitsu guy. You know what I'm saying? He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, and he had his way with him anytime he wanted to on that mat. And I think Nohelin, after a fight like that, now he did this whole camp in Thailand. I'm sure that was a big wake-up call that I need to get my grappling better, but he's out there working on his Muay Thai, so we'll see how it plays out for him. But Jack Shore, on the other hand, is pretty much what I would like to say. There's nothing too flashy about him, but he gets the job done. He pretty much wins. He gets his job done. He's not gonna come out here throwing no flying knees or big head kicks or open up too much with the hands. This guy's just gonna kind of very similar to. And I actually think he might be a little bit more talented than Brett Johns, but a similar approach. He just likes to walk forward. He's a very big bantamweight, and when this guy gets a hold of you in the clinch, he's most likely going to take you down and control you. And that's what he does in most of his fights, man. The guy just gets that body lock and does his thing. And he's fought UFC vets like Von Lee. He's beaten 7-0 guys. So I think Jack Shore is a little bit more far along. I know that Nohelin Hernandez, there's a good chance he comes a lot better after taking that L. So I see why, the people are thinking that he's got the stand-up edge on this in this fight. But sometimes, man, he doesn't have the chin to really capitalize on that stand-up, some of that flashiness. So I'm actually going to go with Jack Shore here. I kind of agree closer to what the bookie had on the opener. They had him opened up at minus 245. I think it's more closer to that. I think it could play out possibly to be a tough fight. This is his debut. It's going to be a lot of pressure. But I got Jack Shore by decision win, just by taking him down.
Look, Nohelin's very exciting. We enjoy watching him fight. It's kill or be killed, but the reality here is that to be in the UFC, man, especially in the bantamweight division, you better be a well-rounded fighter. And not saying that he's not out here training his jiu-jitsu, but on the UFC level, it just ain't there, man. I mean, he's more of a boxer / exciting striker, likes to throw his flying knees, but the deal with that is he's chinny on the feet as well. So, man, it's one of those things where I think Nohelin probably should have had a couple more fights on that regional scene before he made that UFC debut, whereas Jack Shore already had the right fights, already won that Cage Warriors belt, did what he needed to do, and now he's making the UFC debut at the right time. And, man, I think he comes out here, I think he takes him down, I think he takes his back, and I think he chokes him out. I'm going Jack Shore via submission. Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got Marc Diakiese, he's 13-3, and Lando Vannata is 10-3-2. Currently, they got Marc Diakiese minus 155. The comeback on Lando Vannata is plus 135. Well, Shaq, it's interesting because when this fight opened up, it was a pick'em, and I was initially like, man, I think Marc Diakiese should be, somewhat of a considerable favorite here. But then I watched tape, and now I understand why this fight is a pick'em, and I think it's going to be a very exciting fight while it lasts, man. I mean, when you talk about both these guys, they're both coming off much-needed wins. I mean, they both had some losing streaks going on, or winless streaks, because I know Lando Vannata had the draws mixed in there with the losses, you know what I'm saying? But they both overcame that, got some very impressive performances. Now, we can sit here and, criticize the level of opposition they fought, especially Lando, with Marcos Mariano being the guy he beat in the first round, and, Marc Diakiese feasted on the remains of Joe Duffy. But look, those guys needed those wins to get their confidence back, and now I think they probably are going to perform at their best. They're going to meet here in Copenhagen. The better man's going to win. And what's interesting to me about this fight is that I do think Marc Diakiese is the faster guy, the more explosive guy. But man, both guys are susceptible to calf kicks, and both guys kick very, very hard. That's where it's going to get interesting. What happens down the stretch when both guys get gassed? The word on Lando is that he's really good for the first 7.5 minutes, and then he shuts down and has nothing left. And that's been the case in a lot of fights. We have wanted to see him show an improvement in his cardio. Maybe he does that here. And with Marc Diakiese, I remember him being down 2 rounds to Drakkar Klose. He went out there, won that 3rd round, which is something he's done in the past when he was tied 1-1 with Frankie Perez, went out there, won that 3rd round. So I've seen Marc Diakiese win the 3rd round more than once. So assuming that someone doesn't get knocked out in that 1st round, which Lando drops every single person he fights, so someone might get knocked out in this 1st round. But if someone doesn't and it gets extended, I see it being a 1-1 fight going into that 3rd round. All comes down to who wins that 3rd. I'm going to go with Diakiese to slightly edge it out. But a Lando knockout won't surprise me because he has knocked down every single person he's fought. The guy kicks hard. The guy punches hard. Been in there with some very tough guys. So has Diakiese. It's going to be a very dynamic fight. But I'm going to go with Diakiese to edge a decision here.
It's interesting to see the favorite. Not saying it's a decent lean on Diakiese at minus 155, and he did have the 3 losses. Granted, those 3 losses, there's no shame in losing to close. Who else did he fight? Nasrat and Daniel Hooker, and he's a very young kid. So Diakiese, he's young. He was fighting at a very high level that he just quite wasn't ready for. And then he got the Duffy fight. And, he styled on him, did his thing. The calf kicks took him down. He put on a nice little clinic, fully mounted him. That was a good fight for him to exercise a lot of demons. And Lando Vannata, too, man. Lando Vannata, he was kind of building this pattern up of, besides the Drakkar Klose fight. Drakkar is just a bully. He wasn't letting none of that happen. But, and most of his other fights, he'd kind of pick up this rhythm of, absolutely wiping the floor with these guys for a good 5 minutes, you know what I'm saying, dropping them all over the place like Bobby Green, and then he'll make a huge mistake like the illegal knee in that fight, or the Matt Frivola fight. He sat him down twice with a head kick, one with a straight. Going into this fight, I'm thinking I've seen Diakiese in some wars before, but is he a type of guy that can come back from getting dropped? And dropped with the hands, not from a calf kick, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking on his chin. If he just makes a mistake mistake inside the pocket and he gets floored on his ass? Can he come back and weather the storm? I know guys like Matt Frivola. I wouldn't say they're as talented as Marc Diakiese, but Matt Frivola does have a little edge to him. You know what I'm saying? He is a little. I was in Atlanta when he fought Jalen Turner. I mean, there's 100 motherfuckers in that crowd screaming steamrolling. You know what I'm saying? And then his other fights with guys like Bobby Green, who are a lot more experienced, been in wars. I have doubts that Diakiese has that quality in him if he can come back in a fight like that. So Lando Vannata, on the other hand, it's really if you make him work. If you make him work in that clinch, you make him wrestle after you weather his storm is when he gets tired. He's a good wrestler, talented wrestler. It's really hard to necessarily take him down, but just lean on him in the clinch. I don't know if Diakiese really does things like that. He likes to be very calm, chill on the outside, throwing his little cute kicks, and those are nice when you're fighting a guy on one leg, but unless Lando's got one leg, but I feel like Lando can withstand the calf kicks a little better than Marc Diakiese. This fight should be a pick'em, so I feel like the value's on Lando Vannata. He throws slightly more, slightly better boxing, and like I said, I have doubts that Diakiese can come back from a fight that he's been dropped in, so I gotta go with Lando Vannata by second round TKO.
Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got Macy Chiasson. She's 5-0, and Lina Lansberg is 9-4. Currently, they got Macy Chiasson minus 420. The comeback on Lina Lansberg is plus 335. Well, Shaq, Lina Lansberg is coming off one big upset. You think she's going to make it 2 in a row here, man? Because that last one, she was in the plus 330s there. So if she gets this one, that's 2 massive upsets in a row.
Well, yeah, I mean, her last fight, the bookies opened at minus 175. Evinger and Lina the slight dog there, and the people bet Tanya Evinger.
Imagine betting Tanya Evinger at chalk and looking yourself in the mirror.
Anyways, and then Tanya Evinger turned up on her. Lina turned up on her, so that was just a bad, bet on a lot of people's part on Tanya Evinger in that spot. She's completely done off the Cyborg fight and the Aspen Ladd fight. So, and then Macy Chiasson is very green. I will say that. She's very green, but she's very talented. She's got a very good mindset. She trains at a good camp at Fortis. I mean, my boy's safe. That guy changes lives. I mean, you saw what he did for Diego Ferreira and Uriah Hall, out there beating Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champions. And, I feel like Macy Chiasson, eventually, she's going to stop making these little slight mistakes like getting taken down by Sarah Moras. But, hey, Sarah Moras is she got a good ground game, man. She just finished my girl Jo Jua, who pulled one of the biggest stunts I've ever seen in my life. So, I feel like Chiasson is gonna come out here and we've seen Lina struggle in the past when fights get extended and she's in the clinch with like girls like Giannis Kunitskaya or Aspen Ladd, in which she got finished. I feel like this is the next younger person that she's going to lose to, and I got Macy Chiasson. She might have to go 15 minutes for this one. Lina's a tough chick, so I say Macy Chiasson by decision.
Macy Chiasson needs to make a point to make this decisive, but luckily enough, she makes all her fights decisive because she goes out there and pounds these girls out, and I think that's what she's got to do here to get the win, because Lina Lansberg, not only is she fighting on European turf, not only does she have a good history on European turf, but even when she gets her eye closed and it looks like she absolutely lost, these judges love the elbow queen Lina Lansberg, so Macy Chiasson needs to make this extra definitive to go out here and get the win. And I think that's exactly what she's going to do, man. I think she's going to get on top of her. I think she's going to pound her out. I think it's going to be a TKO. I think Macy Chiasson's going to advance. But, man, if Lina Lansberg gets one little cut with an elbow, or, this fight's a little bit closer than it should be, these European judges love the elbow queen, man, so don't be surprised. But I'm still going to go with Macy Chiasson to stop this fight, and we probably won't need the judges here. Featherweight division, we got Brandon Davis, he's 10-7, and Giga Chikadze is 7-2. Currently, they got Brandon Davis minus 150. The comeback on Giga Chikadze is plus 130. Well, Shaq, I know you're very familiar with both of these guys. Now, the question here is, obviously with Brandon Davis, we always criticize his ground game, but in this specific fight, he's the one with the advantage on the mat. You think he utilizes that, or you think he's going to try to stand and bang with the former Glory kickboxer?
Yeah, if he's smart, but I think Brandon's. I don't want to get too personal. I just think he's I don't want to criticize the people around him, but he just doesn't really have that professional team around him. You know what I'm saying? He's training in his garage. This gym in his garage with his boys, and that's good and all. And he was doing the 35 thing, and that fight with Kyung Ho didn't go his way. It wasn't just his ground game; he got dropped in that fight as well. It's one of those things where Brandon his potential is kind of run out, you know. So I feel like this, honestly, even though Giga Chikadze has absolutely beaten nobody in MMA at least, Brandon Davis is the type of, I mean, what does he always say? I want somebody to stand and bang with me. So he ain't looking to take, you can think he's looking to take this to the ground, but you can assume, but I feel like he's going to come to stand with Chikadze, because look, you know, he's probably thinking that Giga Chikadze, his glory fights, you know, are going one way, but his MMA fights really aren't, because he hasn't really been fighting anybody. So this is gonna be a fight played out on the feet for the most part. I feel that Austin Springer, the guy that beat Giga Chikadze, I mean, that guy's a wrestler. Brandon he wants to be a Muay Thai striker, you know what I'm saying? So I got Giga Chikadze. I think the value's on him here. Though he hasn't fought anybody, I think he's gonna get the stand-up fight that he's been looking for, and I think this is the guy to give it to him. I got Giga Chikadze by knockout.
Giga Chikadze on that glory scene, man. What a devastating left kick. When you hear the sound of that kick, man, you cringe. And I mean, dudes go down. That body kick is absolutely devastating. But, you know, he doesn't got those 16-ounce gloves anymore. You're not fighting in a ring with ropes. Now you're fighting in the UFC's octagon. And when you talk about Giga Chikadze's MMA career, it's night and day from his kickboxing career. I mean, the guys he's in there with, so on Contender Series, he lost to a complete tough reject, you know what I'm saying? And he didn't just lose to this guy, he got finished by this guy. And every single person on that show that won got signed that night except Austin Springer, because, I mean, they were trying to set this kid up, and Giga couldn't even pass that test. Well, since that point, he goes out there, rebounds with a 12-second armbar against a 2-32 guy. I'm not exaggerating here when I say the guy he beat was 2-32. I'm 100% serious. And then he also beat an 0-1 guy. And, you know, you're telling me a 12-second armbar against a 2-32 guy is enough to make me pick him against a guy who's actually won fights in the octagon? I don't think so, man. And not only that, when we look at Brandon Davis' last win in the ATL, which we were both at, he took the guy down, he took his back, and he choked him out. So even though against...
dropped like 3 times.
He did get dropped. He still choked the kid out. Even though against real guys like Kyung Ho Kang, who's been in the UFC since, 2012 or whatever. You know, he's going to split decisions with real guys, something that Chikadze's never experienced in his life in terms of MMA, because kickboxing is a completely different sport. I'm going to go with Brandon Davis here, man. I think he's got the experience edge, and I think it's going to pay dividends here. And also, this is a short notice spot for Chikadze. But one thing I don't like is that Davis was fighting at 35s, and you know he was really dedicated to make that weight class, running like 20 miles. I forgot if it was a day, a week, or something like that. Now at 45s, he's probably drinking a little more beer, so, you know, it's going to be the Brandon that loses every fight. But I still think he's got what he got. I still think he's got what it takes to beat Giga Chikadze here. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got Ismail, the Austrian wonder boy, Naurdiev. He's 18-3. And Siyar, the great Bahadurzada, is 24-7. Currently, they got Ismail Naurdiev minus 175. The comeback on Siyar Bahadurzada is plus 155. Well, Shaq, after the hype that Ismail Naurdiev had, I thought he was going to be a huge favorite here. It seems like people aren't really willing to lose money on him again after the stunt he pulled against Chance Rencounter. You think he gets back on track, or are you going with Siyar Bahadurzada?
Yeah, you know, Naurdiev, I mean, the Tractor fight really wasn't that impressive. Tractor's a 5'6" welterweight, you know, a bloated 55er coming up, and Tractor, the age finally caught up to him. I mean, how long do you think a 5'6" welterweight can have success fighting, you know, 6'1" and 6'2" guys, you know what I'm saying? So, and he gassed out in that fight as well. It was just Tractor would flop to his back anytime they would get into any type of 50-50 type of a scramble situation. So what he did against Rencounter really wasn't that shocking. I mean, when you really go back and watch, I mean, he flopped to his back in the first fight and he went to his back in the second fight. Now, Rencounter, he's a college wrestler. Siyar Bahadurzada is a one-dimensional power puncher, you know what I'm saying? But even though I say one-dimensional, he has at times shown that he can utilize his wrestling against guys with no ground game, like Brandon Thatch. You know, he ended up taking him down and you know, winning that fight by submission. So he has at times mixed in a takedown here. And so he did get on top of Chikadze early on in that first round, but Chikadze reversed him with a beautiful sweep. Chikadze is a black belt. Naurdiev isn't, so I don't think Naurdiev is capable of doing anything like that. He did get on top of Rencounter a couple times, but man, I think that obviously Naurdiev's probably going to come a little more disciplined. His head got a little big after the Tractor win. I mean, Tractor was on quite the streak. Before that, he was 21. The whole Austrian Wonder Boy thing, this and that.
So you're saying the Austrian Wonder Boy stuff's a complete myth?
That's a complete myth, fraud. Yeah, 100%. You know, it's just now, the thing with Naurdiev, his chin really hasn't been tested on this level, too. You know, Tractor Becerra really didn't throw any punches in that fight, and his fights before this, I mean, Siyar Bahadurzada, this guy has a long history of knocking men unconscious at dog money. You know what I'm saying? So I'd be very careful. Yeah, I slightly lean Naurdiev just because he is a little younger, and Siyar's coming off a fight where he took a lot of damage in. But I feel like Curtis Millender is a very far along striker in comparison to Naurdiev. I mean, Naurdiev, he's got some hard kicks, but chance run counter, Millender is just a way better striker. I mean, it's just that. It's just facts. So I think that it's Siyar or pass in terms of a betting perspective. It's a matter of, do you think that this 22-year-old kid is ready to swim with big grown men? Because he couldn't in his last fight. And Tractor Brazeris, look, he's a 5'6", bloated, a 55er. That, you know what I'm saying? Who, quite frankly, cheated in a lot of his fights. You know what I'm saying? So I got Naurdiev, but I'd be very careful. I feel like this fight should be, minus 130. Naurdiev.
There were a lot of sketchy moments in that Prazeres fight, and that we've actually mentioned when we've broken down Naurdiev's last fight, where, he rocked Prazeres on the feet, and then he'd get taken down immediately after, and everyone would put so much stock into how he'd reverse Prazeres on the mat. It's like, dude, Prazeres is out on his feet. He still takes the kid down. Of course he got reversed. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things where here with Siyar Bahadurzada in that first round, when both guys are fresh, especially Ismail, because we've noticed, if this shit goes past the first, he tends to break. If he can't knock you out, if he lands a high kick clean on your face and you don't go down, all of a sudden he ain't the Austrian Wonder Boy no more.
Chance was making him make girl sounds.
It's one of those things where I really thought he was going to be a bigger favorite here because of the hype, but I'm glad to see that people realize that, it's okay to admit that you were wrong on this kid. It's okay to realize that, he's not a future world champion. The kid's talented, but he's young, he's green, he's immature. He's going to have to show me big improvements here with Siyar. I mean, let's talk about his last fight. Curtis Millender fucked him up to the point where Siyar was making terroristic threats inside the octagon. That's not even me joking around. Go look it up. Curtis said that Siyar was whispering in his ear, "Fuck America." You know what I mean? If Ismail comes out here and high kicks this guy, don't be surprised if Siyar is making some more threats. But that being said, if Siyar can get past the first round, I really think he can break this kid. I've seen him break kids before. So I'm going to lean that way, man. I'm going to go with Siyar via third round finish. Next up in the middleweight division, we got Alessio Di Chirico. He's 12-3, and Makmud Muradov is 22-6. Currently, they got Makmud Muradov minus 150. The comeback on Alessio Di Chirico is plus 130. Initially, Alessio was supposed to fight Peter Sabata. That would have been an interesting fight, but now they called up Floyd Mayweather's first ever MMA signee, Makmud Muradov, to take his spot. And like I just said, this is the first fighter that Floyd Mayweather has ever represented in MMA, and he's a kid that's paid his dues. I mean, he started off his career, he was basically a 500 fighter, one fight above 500. He was 5-4, and since that point, he's gone 22-6, so he's really been putting in work these last few years. And I like the kid's style. He fights with a lot of confidence. He's got a lot of swag in there. He's kind of funny too. He'll high five in the middle of a fight, and for other people, I'm like, oh man, that's a big red flag, because I kind of question their killer instinct and stuff like that if they're high-fiving in there. Like, you remember Devontae Kincaid-Smith high-fiving with Kama Worthy. 2 seconds later, he's out unconscious on the mat. They had to bring in the smelling salts. Well, here with Makmud Muradov, he has no problem pulling the trigger and landing that kill blow, because I saw him high-five with one guy after landing a flying knee to the chin. 2 seconds later, he lands an overhand right. And when I tell you that he had no issues landing those 3 extra follow-up shots, let me tell you right now, he dove in there like Dan Henderson. So this kid, Makmud Muradov, even though he's got that sense of humor about his fighting, he's definitely a killer in there, and he's very experienced, had a lot more fights. He's had more wins than Alessio has had total fights. So he's coming in here very seasoned, and the kid's well-rounded too. I've seen him take guys down. I've seen him defend takedowns. I've seen him knock guys out, so he's well-rounded. And with Alessio Di Chirico, he's what you'd consider an average fighter at the UFC level. He's a mid-tier UFC middleweight. He's solid, man. He's decent everywhere. Doesn't blow anyone out the water. It's more so, he'll go to split with Gareth McClellan. He'll go to split with Julian Marquez. He won't finish Bojan Bulikovic. He won't finish Eric Spicely. So I've kind of seen what happens when Alessio fights other mid-tier guys, and he's not blowing them out the water like you expect him to, so I don't think he's going to impress people here. I know that he opened the favorite. I know the line flipped, and oftentimes that's a sketchy situation, but I actually think this is going to be one of the rare exceptions where they were in the right on the line flip. And I'm going to go with the newcomer here to I was going to say upset, but now he's the favorite. I'm going to go with the newcomer here to defeat Alessio Di Chirico via decision.
Muradov, is coming in here with a lot of hype. A bookie, even with that hype, bookmakers open Alessio Di Chirico a sizable favorite against this guy. They got, oh, never mind, I thought that was Fiziev on Naurdiev's picture. But
it is.
But, I feel like Makmud, all the things that he's done on the local scene are very nice, and it seems like he's got the right team and the right following behind him. But, the UFC is a different level, and, we can sit here and say mid-tier, this and that, but in my experiences, anytime you get these guys that have been going against guys like Kevin Holland, who's 3-1, 4-1 at the UFC level, and, he lost that fight, but it was a very close fight. Just the way you got to think on the fly in the UFC, this guy's done it a bunch of times against big power hitters like Julian Marquez. I feel like this is nothing he hasn't seen before. I feel like Makmud's being overvalued in the spot, and I'll take Alessio Di Chirico by decision.
Next up in the middleweight division, we got Alen Amedovski. He's 8-1. And John Phillips, 21-9. Currently, they got Alen Amedovski minus 125. The comeback on John, the Welsh wrecking machine Phillips, is plus 105. So Shaq, it opened minus 190, Alen Amedovski. A lot of action's been coming on John Phillips. Now it's close to a pick'em with a slight lean on Alen Amedovski. You agree with that slight lean on Amedovski, or do you think he actually should have been a bigger favorite like he initially opened?
Well, this fight's really interesting because, I bet on Phillips. I felt like he won his last fight against Martian, but he only has himself to blame. It just shows you that this guy is what I like to call just not good business. You know what I'm saying? This guy, you know what his record is when fights go out of the first round? Over. All Alen Amedovski, even though I'm not too high on him, I've seen SBG guys take his back, but he's not fighting a grappler. He's fighting a one-dimensional power puncher with no ground game at all. So, Charles Byrd finished this guy in the first round. This guy is not good business, although I think he hits very hard, but he's very slow. He's very plotty. He had his opportunity to knock Jack Marshman out. I think Amedovski probably got a big wake-up call in that Jocko fight. He got a good taste of what the top 15's like, and now I'm sure he's going to come a lot better. I think all he has to do is get out the first round, and this guy will beat himself. So I got Alen Amedovski by, I'll say decision.
It's an interesting fight, man, because the way I see this fight is I view it as two strikers trying to stand and bang until one man falls. And I know there's this argument of Alen Amedovski either extending the fight or taking it down to the mat, which he could totally do. But the thing is, when I watched Alen Amedovski's regional fights, it was the ground that also gave him a lot of problems, and even though he was able to overcome some bad spots, which is one thing we can't say about John Phillips, man, because if he gets his back taken, chances are he will be tapping that mat shortly after. Even though I got to give him credit, he did escape a couple things against Kevin Holland, ultimately succumbed to the submission, so, at least he's extending it to the third round nowadays, right, Shaq, instead of getting finished in that first leg against Charles Byrd. So, you could say it's an improvement or not, but the bottom line is here against Alen Amedovski, I just think it's a step down in competition, and I think that Alen's going to give him the kind of fight he wants. This is where I could be totally wrong, because Alen could come out here with some grappling game plan that I personally haven't seen from him before. All the times I've seen him on the mat, he's been dominated, and either it stayed there or he's been able to reverse things and then win from there. But it's never been because he initiated the grappling. So here, if he comes out there and does that, that'd be a smart thing to do. But man, I got to base it off what I've seen. I think he's going to stand and bang with John Phillips. I think someone's going to hit the deck. I got John Phillips via first round knockout. Next up in the welterweight division, we got Alex Cowboy Oliveira. He's 20-7. And Nicolas Dalby is 17-3. Currently, they got Alex Cowboy Oliveira minus 145. The comeback on Nicolas Dalby is plus 125. Shaq, it opened minus 185. Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Now it's minus 145. And what's so interesting to me about this fight is that if you just look at their career trajectories on paper, don't even go back and watch fights, you see that, well, since Dalby got cut from the UFC, he's gone on to win a few fights, got that call back, even fought for that Cage Warriors belt and won it again. So he's a two-time Cage Warriors world champion. He won the belt on his, before his first UFC stint, got cut from the UFC, won it again. So at least he was able to recapture gold in Cage Warriors. But now it's welcome back to the UFC, my friend. And with Alex Oliveira, he has been falling on some hard times, but you got to consider that the guys he's been losing to are all world-class guys. Gunny Nelson, who's ranked in the top 15. Mike Perry, who's perennial top 20. And who's the other guy? And Yancy Medeiros, who is a tough Hawaiian. Isn't ranked, but is a tough Hawaiian. You know what I'm saying? Look, I think that all those guys would give Nick Dalby a lot of trouble too. What Nick Dalby is known for is that he's a very, very tough guy. You know, if you watch that fight with Darren Till, he's getting mollywopped all over the place for the first 2 rounds, but in that third round, Darren Till's shoulder popped out, and that was all that Dalby needed to go out there and get a 10-8 and make that fight a draw. So if you show a little bit of weakness against a guy like Dalby, if you're huffing and puffing, if you refuse to throw back, the guy's going to come out there with head kicks. He's going to try to grind you. He's going to try to put it on you. He's got a karate background. They used to call him the sharpshooter. So he's a very experienced guy. It's just that when we're talking about the athleticism here between Alex Cowboy and Nick Dalby, it's night and day, man. Alex Cowboy is a real athlete. Alex Cowboy is a bruiser. Alex Cowboy is one of the most physical guys and one of the hardest hitters in the UFC. I'm going to say pound for pound, you know what I'm saying? Because I think that when this guy hits people, they got a certain look on their face. Even when they kick him, it hurts you to kick the guy. The guy's made out of steel. So it's one of those things where you got to make him start to bleed. You got to make him start to breathe hard. You got to extend the fight. But even with that being said, people act like, oh, if you just get past the first round with Alex Oliveira, that's all it's going to take for Dalby to win this fight. And it's like, well, did you watch that Perry fight where he's still slinging leather in that third round hard? Even the Yancy Medeiros fight, they're both dropping each other back and forth. Nick Dalby gets dropped every single fight, so I think he's going to get dropped here too. The only difference is I think that Alex Oliveira hits a lot harder than these guys like Carlo Pedersoli, who have been dropping Nick Dalby, and all these other guys, Peter Sabata. Look, I got Alex Oliveira here via first round knockout. I think that even if this does go past the first round, I don't just automatically think that Alex is just going to shut down because he had a couple tough fights with some top 20 guys in the world. I think that Dalby is going 50-50 with cans on the regional scene, and I respect Dalby, nice guy. I got Alex Oliveira here by knockout.
Alex Oliveira has fought, considerably the higher level competition. Like you said, I feel like people are misconstruing him being quote unquote done. I feel like, he might be done in terms of the top 15 sense of the word, but now you give him a matchup against a guy, like you said, who, even though he's got the 17-3 record, let's be honest, guys, this guy's a journeyman. And look, he got cut from the UFC the first time. He lost to Carlo Pedersoli, and he picked up a win against, two regional guys. What were their records? Like 7-0, 8-0.
One was 17-3, but he was also French.
Okay. But anyways, I feel like Dalby, he's a very good fighter, a very smart fighter. I actually think he's a smarter fighter than Alex Oliveira in terms of just he has more reason behind his fighting. He knows how to switch stance nicely. He's got good grappling. The issue with him has always been his chin, and I'll tell you what, if Alex Cowboy, those straight punches that he throws, they're landing on Mike Perry, they're hurting Yancy Medeiros all over the place. I know Dalby's known for his tough chin, but he hasn't been hit like this in a while. I know that Carlo Pedersoli, his first UFC stint, he did fight Elizu. He got through that, but things are a little bit different now in the second stint. He's a lot more older. I'm happy to see him back in the UFC because I do think he can win a fight or two, but I just think this is a little bit too much of a task for him. Alex Cowboy, this is a big... You saw what happened when he took his first step down against Carlo Pedersoli. I mean, he had the fight with Carlos Condit, and my thing with Alex is, when you're thinking about the betting perspective in this fight, he is somewhat of a slight favorite. Personally, I do think he could... I feel like if, he didn't have all these personal things going on outside the cage, I'm not going to get into it, but I feel like he might even be a higher favorite. We've seen him in spots against a guy that beat Nick Dalby where he was minus 330 and knocked him out in 30 seconds, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like there's a big difference in guys like Mike Perry and Nick Dalby, or Gunnar Nelson and Nicolas Dalby, you know what I'm saying? Gunnar Nelson just went to split with, I don't know how it was a split, but hey, he went to a split with Leon Edwards, who's top, 3-4 in the world. So I think this is what we call, there's levels to this, I don't think Dalby is on that level. So I got Alex Cowboy by knockout. But look, at the same time, from a betting perspective, Alex has been somewhat pulling what we like to call stunts. He is what we like to refer to as a stunt puller. And what I mean by that is what happened in the Gunnar Nelson fight when he was absolutely smashing Gunnar Nelson. I mean, he did reverse him. When Gunnar took his back, he turned in and he got on top. And, next thing you know, he's smashing him. And then 2 seconds later, he's on his back. And you're like, wait, Alex, no. Like, what about the Condit fight when early on in that fight he gets on top of Condit and he's got Carlos shoved up against the fence, and next thing you know, you let Carlos reverse you, and now and now he's got our back. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are what we call big no-nos. So if that happens, if he happens to do that here, you have no one to blame. He has been showing a pattern of what the fuck Alex know. Like, so it is a little sketchy, but I do think he knocks Dalby out at some point.
Next up in the light heavyweight division, we got Ovince St. Preux. He's 23-13, and Michal Lord Oleksiejdczuk is 14-2. Currently, they got Michal Lord Oleksiejdczuk minus 210. The comeback on Ovince St. Preux is plus 175. Well, Shaq, we're fans of OSP. Actually, I've seen him fight live a bunch of times. Very exciting guy. Been a perennial top 15 guy in the light heavyweight division for the longest time. And with Michal Oleksiejdczuk, we've been high on him as well, man. We told everyone not to parlay Khalil at minus 5-something odds. And then we even took Michal in his next fight against John Vannata. And then his fight after that, he knocked out Antigulov in under a minute. Do you think he gets the biggest win, the most high-profile win of his career here against the perennial top 10, Ovince St. Preux?
Yeah, Ovince St. Preux, like you said, a perennial top 10 guy. I mean, he's been a part of that 205 division for the longest time, and I've been on the record to say that he's one of the most, exciting 205ers of all time. I mean, the guy's, had how many Von Flue chokes, Kimura against Tyson Pedro. I mean, the Shogun knockout. I mean, the guy had a very good run. Unfortunately, I just think that run is probably going to come to an end here when you consider the type of damage that he's been taking in these fights recently. And it seems that, he kind of had that little stretch where, he had the 3-fight losing streak to Jones, Volkan, and Jimmy Manuel, that stretch, and then he was able to get the 2 wins against Yushin Okami and Corey Anderson and De Lima. Had that fight with Latifi, it was a big showdown, and we saw how that fight went. He got finished, and it just seems like things have kind of just gone completely down the drain since then. Even though he had that win against Tyson Pedro, I mean, he got floored on early in that fight. That's when you started to see, okay, now maybe his chin really is starting to just completely go to shits. He got floored in that fight, but Tyson Pedro, he's not the caliber of fighter that these top guys like Lord McCall and Johnny Walker and Ratchik are. He's not that level of prospect in my opinion. And Tyson Pedro decided to try to take him down, and he ended up getting it was like a wizard position, and then he just went to his back, and Ovince was able to pull off one of his patent submission moves, man. And then his fights after that against another very fundamental kind of a point fighter, Dominic Reyes. I mean, we saw how that fight went. He really didn't let his hands go at all. Just seems like he's more trying to get the takedowns these days, trying to get this fight to the mat. And then his last fight against Nikita Krylov in the ATL, he was able to actually take Nikita down, and he had him full mounted, but then there's the sloppiness and all his techniques, and, it just seems like we're not dealing with the same guy that, even the guy that was, that guy was still spotty, guys. Like, let's not forget that guy was still spotty. He would just pull off the occasional Von Flue choke that we never seen, So I feel like OSP had a very good run, but now I feel like he's running into big problems at 205. Lord Michal Oleksiejdczuk, although he hasn't fought anyone with this name value, he has been in there with guys that, come from OSP's era like John Vallante, and I mean, he handled them very accordingly. I recall John Vallante taking a knee in less than a minute 30, or if I'm not mistaken. So, he's definitely, I guess you could say he's a more undersized 205er, but what he has that's a lot of 205ers don't have is that pace and that footwork and that speed, that head movement. He's got the Euro style, his preparation kind of reminds me of guys like Hermansson and Ratchik. He comes very prepared. You saw the Antigulov fight, he was line minus 200 in that fight, and a lot of people were saying, man, that line's a little too wide. This kid's an 85er. I know Antigulov lost to Kudalaba, but man, he's got 20 submissions on his record, and I mean, there was no better way to handle a guy like that. I mean, he knew where Antigulov was going to be at all time, threw those shots up the middle. I feel like this guy, Michal Oleksiejdczuk, is wise beyond his age. I feel like he comes out here, puts a pace on Ovince. It's pretty much the same scenario in all his fights. As long as he doesn't eat the big shot, I think like he'll be fine. And I feel like his body punching, his pace, and the fact that Ovince's chin is, I mean, now he's getting hit and now he's completely turning away. At first he would just get knocked out, but when you get knocked out and submitted at the same time, plus the Dominic Reyes fight, plus the Nikita fight, plus the prior ass whoopings, I think that this is a perfect spot for Lord McCall, and I think he comes out here and gets it done in the first round.
Man, I'm a big fan of Ovince St. Preux. He's a very exciting guy at 205 pounds and one of the original light heavyweights that came from the Strikeforce merge. So it's been really sick to watch him in his career. And the thing about it with Ovince St. Preux is that even in his prime, he was never really known for being the most technical guy or this or that. It wasn't, he wasn't out here blowing people away with how precise his jab is or, how, or the timing of his takedown or any shit like that. It was more so the guy is so damn athletic and he's so funky in there that he would get all kinds of off the wall shit that you've never seen before, like those 3 Von Flue chokes, the knockouts that came out of nowhere. He had a couple other submissions, like the Ryan Gimo one, which were very, very, like you'd never seen anything like that before. You'd never seen guys tap to shit like that. So, man, Ovince definitely had his time, and we got to tip our caps. Very exciting guy, like I said. Also a very nice person. We've seen him at the NFC events. Definitely like the guy a lot. But as far as Lord Michal Oleksiejdczuk goes, I love this kid. This is one of my favorite prospects at 205 pounds. And right there with Johnny Walker and Alexander Rakic, man. He's definitely the real deal. And what I like about him is that everyone criticizes him for being undersized for the weight class, but I actually praise him for it because that allows him to be the faster man in there. That allows him to go out there with that European footwork, and he really confuses guys with all that footwork, with those feints, and the kind of pace that he pushes on guys they just simply can't maintain. So basically for Ovince to win this fight, he needs to knock out Michal Oleksiejdczuk in the early going. He needs to get on top of him and try to submit him right away, because if he doesn't do that, historically, Ovince tends to gas. You gas on a guy like Michal Oleksiejdczuk, and the fight will be over shortly after, because normally I talk about how, you gas on a guy like this, he will tee off on you. Yes, he will tee off on you, but the thing is, if you're gassed with him, you might not even give him a chance to tee off on you, because he might just hit you one time in the body and you go down. So I think that when Ovince starts to gas, when that first round knockout or the first round sub doesn't work out, he will get teed off on in a way where he's either gonna have to take a knee or he will get laid out. So I don't think that Ovince getting on top of Michal is the end of the world at all. I think Michal actually has some very underrated grappling. If you go back to that Khalil fight, and he had very nice offensive takedowns, very nice top control, which I actually think he could use here as well if this turns into a war. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because the whole argument is, well, what if Ovince gets on top of him? I think if Ovince gets on top of him, I think he survives. I mean, Ovince was on top of Nikita Krylov, and in the past, Ovince finished Nikita Krylov when he was in that position. Well, this time, he had Nikita dead to rights, and he lets Nikita back up and gets finished shortly after. So I just don't think Ovince has it anymore like he used to put it bluntly, man. So I'm going to go with Michal Oleksiejdczuk via devastating finish here. Now, also in the light heavyweight division, we got Jan Kuteleba. He's 15-4, and Khalil Roundtree is 8-3. Currently, they got Khalil Roundtree minus 125. The comeback on Jan Kuteleba is plus 105. Well, Shaq, Khalil Roundtree really impressed a lot of people with his fight against Eric Anders. And actually, if you go back and you listen to our breakdown in that fight, we said from the jump that was actually a really bad matchup for Eric Anders. We said Khalil was going to be way too fast for him. It turns out that was the case. Here with Jan Kuteleba, historically speaking, similar to Khalil, he struggled with guys that take him down to the mat. We haven't seen too many people rough him up on the feet, except for that one time when he gassed out against Jared Cannonier, got teed off on in the second and third rounds. But you could say a similar thing about Khalil when he fought Michal Oleksiejdczuk, So interestingly enough, for the most part, these guys lose on the mat, but we have seen them lose on the feet when they gas out. I have a feeling these two are going to stand and bang until one man falls. I know Jan's got that Greco-Roman wrestling background, but they've been hyping up that wrestling background for years. I haven't seen him use it once. So I think they're going to stand and bang. My question for you, man, is someone going to fall, or is this going to go the 3-round distance?
Yeah, I feel like you said, his fight over Eric, the performance was very good, but Eric Anders, very good fighter, but Jan Kutelaba is a lot faster, a lot more powerful, a lot more looser, and even though Jan lost his last fight to Glover Teixeira, I actually thought he looked the best he ever has on the feet there for a while, man. I feel like Glover Teixeira is a dog, and Glover Teixeira is still out here beating cats that are 15, 16 years younger than him, man, so still to this day, so Glover Teixeira is a very underrated. I feel like that loss, no shame in that. I felt like he looked the best he ever has, and Glover Teixeira gets on top of you, man. Don't be shocked when he submits you. Now, Khalil Roundtree looked good, but I feel like, man, people are jumping the gun a little bit too much. I feel like he is making improvements. I did say going into the Eric Anders fight that even though he's taken a couple losses, at least he's making improvements in his grappling. But this fight is going to be about, like you said, who has the better chin, who can react to the shots better. If anyone's going to shoot, it's going to be Kutelaba, because look, if they get into a firefight and shit hits the fan, and it's easy for guys like, I'm not saying guys like Khalil, just because I feel like his ground game has improved. I mean, he's been training with the Hickman bros in Thailand, so I do expect that. I do expect him to not be able to get tapped out or just laid on for, significant periods of time. But I still do think Jan Cutelaba is more advanced in that area. It's going to be a really good fight. It's going to be a really good fight. I feel like Khalil is a just slightly better stand-up, but I would not be shocked if Jan caught him on the chin either. I mean, I feel like both guys can knock each other out. This fight should be a pick'em, so I feel like if you bet Khalil at minus money, is kind of jumping the gun a little bit too soon. And, if you riding Cutelaba's still not, how old is Cutelaba, like 25? Like, this guy is still, like, you keep letting, even though he's still shaky here and there, you let these young kids, like, cry.
What do you think would happen if Khalil fought Glover and it hit the mat?
You know what I'm saying? Like, you keep giving these young kids, even though he's still shaky, still spotty, you keep giving a young kid like him more experiences against guys like Glover Teixeira and Antigolov. One of these days, he's going to figure things out, and he's going to get a lot better. So I wouldn't sleep on that. So I'm going to go with Jan Cutelaba, actually, and a little upset.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a bad pick at all, man, because, again, we said going into that Eric Anders fight that there was a significant speed difference. Now, I'm not saying that he's not faster than Jan, but the speed difference is not as significant as it was in the Eric Anders fight. I'm just letting y'all know that right here, right now on Half the Battle. So it could be a very interesting fight that could go either way. And it's one of those things where, again, like I kind of alluded to earlier, people are kind of talking about this Jan Cutelaba Greco-Roman wrestling background. How long have I been hearing that for? I'm not discrediting his wrestling background. It just hasn't really translated into MMA, and that's just the bottom line. I'd like to see it. The kid's young. Maybe now we're going to...
Those were the Serkinov and Teixeira.
Yeah, And the thing is, I thought he was going to win both of those fights. So it's one of those things now against Khalil Roundtree. Is the speed difference going to be that big where, Khalil can counter him with something clean along the way? I honestly don't know, man. I think this fight should be a pick'em, so the value is on Jan Cutelaba here in this spot, but I'm a slightly lean with Khalil here, man. I think he can catch him with something clean along the way, but I wouldn't go too big on this unless you have a serious read here, but I see this being a very exciting 50-50 fight. May the best man win. Next up in the welterweight division, we got Gunny Nelson. He's 17-4, and Gilbert Durinho Burns is 16-3. Currently, they got Gilbert Durinho Burns minus 135. The comeback on Gunny Nelson is plus 115. Well, Shaq, this is the second fight that Gilbert Durinho has taken on short notice at welterweight, and I'll tell you what, man, welterweight, lightweight, no matter the weight, Gilbert Durinho has been in his best form of his career yet. So far, man, he's been looking the best he's ever looked in all areas of the game. I know in the past we've questioned his striking defense, his cardio. Seems like both those things have been patched up a little bit. And with Gunny Nelson, I know we've had our questions about him too. But, man, the toughness was on full display in that Alex Cowboy fight. Even in that Leon fight, got floored in the second round, full mounts him in the third. So I think even Gunny is developing. Now my question here is, who's going to get this big win at 170, man? Both guys are black belts. Both guys got knockout power. Very exciting fight. Who takes it?
Like I said about Khalil's performance against Eric Anders, that people could possibly jump in the gun. People could possibly jump in the gun on Gilbert Burns a little bit at 170. Yeah, his fight against Kunchenko, who was undefeated, never lost. But Kunchenko is not as loose as Gunnar Nelson. He's not as fast as Gunnar Nelson. His boxing's not as good. I mean, he's a good fighter, but just a Russian slow old man, a coaster. So Gilbert Burns was able to utilize his calf kicks very well in those first two rounds, but you did see him gas out in that third round. He did take the fight on short notice. He's taking this fight on short notice as well. I have been having a little speculations while he was at 55 that, he is getting better, man. If he moved up a weight class, maybe things would go good, and it seems like that might be the case. It's just Gunnar Nelson, I feel like he's one of those guys that's a hard guy to get a real good read on, because this guy, I remember back in the day when we all bet. I know everyone out there bet on Tumenov to knock him out, and we all said that Tumenov was going to mop the floor with him and this and that, and next thing you know, Gunny was on his back strangling him unconscious, you know what I'm saying? And when you get these fights like Leon Edwards, no offense to Leon Edwards, great fighters, Damian Maia, no offense, great fighter, but those guys like to hug and control, and Gunnar, I feel like he's low-key one of those guys where if a guy actually tries to fight him like Alex Cowboy, then you see him kind of have better success. And Gilbert Burns, he likes to back up into that fence and throw that big looping right overhand, and man, when that lands, he might put you out unconscious. So Gunner's gonna have to watch out for that. He's been dropped several times before, just like the Leon Edwards fight, just like the Rick Story fight back in the day, just like the Ponzinibbio fight in which he got stiffened in the first round. You can't eye poke a chin. You know what I'm saying? You can't eye poke a chin, but I think that Gunnar Nelson is one of those guys where he could be, I don't want to say undervalued, but just underrated in a spot like this. Just because he lost to Leon. Look, Leon Edwards is top 5. Gilbert Burns still has a ways to go before he can reach that level, in my opinion. I feel like the kid's got a lot of potential. So I do slightly lean him here, but from a betting perspective, I feel like it's dog or pass just because Gunnar is the more proven guy at 170, I know this kid's coming up in weight. I know he's new to the division. Big hitter. Serious black belt, but we've seen him get taken down in the past too and controlled. I wouldn't be shocked if Gunny was able to hold his own with him. On the mat. Gunny is a serious black belt too, man. So it could potentially be a lot closer fight than people are thinking. But I'll go with Burns, but it's not a very confident pick.
We have seen Burns held down, but we've seen Gunny held down too. I know you remember that Damian Maia fight. Yeah, it is Damian. But Gilbert Burns is a second-degree black belt too, so it's not like he's some slouch if he takes your back either. But man, honestly though, on the feet, I think that Gunny's actually going to have some success here while he's fresh, especially. While Gunny's fresh, he's serious, man, and he does kind of have that, McGregor style. And I know back when he fought Tumenov, he was on Connor's Flintstone vitamins, and you see his physique in that fight. He ain't looked like that since, but at least he's still going out here and winning fights, man. But if he can get back on whatever he was taking before that Tumenov fight, holy shit, because that guy was... Because I remember before the Tumenov fight, we were saying this guy could make 155. Man, that Tumenov performance looked incredible, but his physique ain't looked like that since. But at least he can still win fights. But here in the early going, I do kind of like the straight lefts of Gunny to hit the face of Gilbert Burns to kind of catch him before those overhands catch Gunny. So I do think in the early going, Gunny might drop him, Gunny might take him down, Gunny might do all these things. But the thing is, man, Gunny tends to gas out a little bit, and I do think that when they tie up, Gilbert Durinho can get the better of the exchanges for sure. I think he's a better black belt than Gunny Nelson, and we've seen Gunny succumb to those bad positions.
Kavanaugh's a fake black belt?
Got his black belt in a cereal box. Saying Kavanaugh went to the supermarket, put 25 cents in the machine, and got his black belt. But I'm just kidding. But as far as this matchup is concerned, it's really hard to call. I think the early going favors Gunny Nelson. I think he can get a first round finish, but if he doesn't, I will kind of edge Gilbert Burns to get the second and third rounds, even though he took this fight on short notice. It's just that I have noticed, man, that when Gunny lets it all go in that first round and he can't get you out, he'll do the huff and puff, man. He'll do the walking mummy too. So, and all of a sudden his, explosive, dynamic Cobra karate style don't work no more. So we'll see what happens. But it's a tough pick. I think it's a dog or pass situation. I'm gonna lean Gilbert Durinho, but just proceed with caution is all I gotta say. Co-main event of the evening in the lightweight division, we got Marc O. Madsen, he's 8-0, and Danilo Belluardo is 12-4. I keep wanting to call the guy Mike Madsen like the movie director, but it's Marc Madsen. Look, he's the Danish silver medalist Olympian in wrestling. No joke, 2016 in the Rio de Janeiro Games, this dude won the silver medal in wrestling. And when you watch his MMA fights, he picks guys up over his head, slams them down on the mat, and lands some serious ground and pound, some hammer fists. Granted, he has been fighting, a bunch of you-know-whats, but guess what? He's fighting one of those guys now. He's fighting a guy in Danilo Belluardo, where when we were watching his footage for his last fight, man, I was like, dude, that's some of the scariest knockouts I've ever seen in my life. I got sent to the fifth dimension on his regional fights, and UFC debut got reversed by Joel Alvarez. You know what's going to happen when this fight hits the mat? It will be over shortly after. But honestly, if Marc wants to stand with this guy, touch his chin on the feet, that works too. But what I really think is going to happen, he's going to pick him up. He might even throw him out the cage, but if he doesn't throw him out the cage, he's going to throw him on the cage. And when the kid hits the ground, it's going to be hammer fist to the chin. I got Marc Madsen via first round knockout. I know a lot of people are questioning why this is the co-main event. It's in Copenhagen, Denmark. This kid's the Danish silver medalist Olympian. He's probably very popular over there. From what it seems like, he's like a hometown hero. That's why he's the co-main event, and he's going to get a devastating finish too. So enjoy it.
The greatest Denmark fighter of all time. Shout out to my boy Martin Kim, and he was the
original Danish,
the original Dane guy. But it's unfortunate.
He's going to be in his corner, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I know he was on Ariel's show.
Martin Kamin's going to be in his corner.
Okay, so yeah, my boy Kamin, so now he's definitely going to But nah, like you said, Bilardo, I mean, if you guys go back and watch some of his fights, he had a bad stretch and some KO losses. One of them was AJ McKee, a couple to some 8-2 guys. Man, there were some where it was scary, just put it that way. I mean, look, he got up and he fell over and they face first, and doctors were running in there to try to... I mean, it was scary.
It was beyond the smelling salts.
Yeah, it was.
They had to bring out the stretcher.
It was beyond smelling salts, and seems like he picked himself back up very nicely before his UFC debut. But then his UFC debut, we saw how that fight was. It seemed like he got the takedown early. He fought a guy with very shitty takedown defense in Alvarez. But then the second Alvarez fought back and pushed him even a little bit. He reversed him, fully mounted him, and he was face first again. So I feel that Marc Manson is a tailor-made fight to come out here. Pretty much just mixed in with the crowd, come in here and overwhelm him and take him down and use your Olympic wrestling. If you can make the Olympics for wrestling and win a silver medal, you'll beat Danilo Bilardo. So.
Main event of the evening in the middleweight division, we got Jack the Joker Hermansson. He's 20-4, and Jared the Killer Gorilla Cannonier is 12-4. So 20-4 versus 12-4. Currently, they got Jack Hermansson minus 240. The comeback on Jared Cannonier is plus 200. Well, Shaq, the days of getting those good dog odds on Jack Hermansson or even a pick'em price are long gone. Now he's the sizable favorite he should be. So my question here is, obviously we've been high on this guy for the longest time. Is he going to take care of biz like he's supposed to, or is he taking a dangerous fight here? And could he be in for an upset?
I mean, one could call this a risky fight. I mean, he did beat Jacare, but they're still trying to build him up a name, so they gave him that risky fight on the Euro market, and we'll see how he does. Because the reason why I say risky, I'm just terrified of the calf kicks. Like, I think his calf kicks are like that scary, bro. Like, I'm not joking. Like, I feel like one of those things could fucking immobilize a leg to a point. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand.
So I feel like Jack needs to come out here and do what he does, and that's come out here with the herky-jerky footwork, having his opponents a little bit confused, like, yo, why is this little Scandinavian, charging at me like this, you know what I'm saying? Grab a hold of this and capitalize on that 40-something% takedown defense. We know Cannonier, it's definitely, his takedown defense has definitely gotten better, but, it's still not to the level. We're talking about Jack Hermansson here, the number one ground and pounder in the world. I mean, we're not joking about this, guys. I mean, he's finished how many people with ground and pound, and then now he's added this new guillotine, and there's a guarantee that if he puts Cannonier in that, Cannonier's tapping the mat. So I think it's more likely probably going to go that way. I think Jack is probably going to finish him in that first round, but I'd be lying if I said that if he can't submit him, that I wouldn't be nervous. Cannonier is very, very imposing. He hits like a truck. He's huge for 85. The guy is strong. But Jack Hermansson, in my opinion, is on a different level. His ground game is on a different level. I feel like we're dealing with a guy that's one of the best specialists in the sport when it comes to wrestling. I mean, guys, this guy, Jack, loves wrestling so much. If you guys go to his Instagram, bro, these guys, him and his friends, like, wrestle for fun. Like, they wrestle in hotel rooms. Like, they playing with clothes on. Like, they just love to grapple, man. Like, that's what
wearing jeans and shoes.
They just wrestle for fun. Like, they get to the hotel and they start wrestling, bro. So Jack is just a specialist when it comes to that, and I feel like that will carry him to victory. And this is a big fight, because if he can win this fight, man, in my opinion, the way I got it stacked up in terms of contenders, I know we got the Till and Gastelum fight coming, which is a big fight. But after Izzy, Rob, of course, and then you got Paolo waiting in line, I feel like Hermansson's right in the talk after that. So I'm not saying to put him in there with Paolo, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like he's solidifies a top 5 spot.
He might not have a choice. But the thing with this fight is, the reason that it was kind of sketchy when it first got announced was just because, he'd been fighting David Branch, who, I mean, if that's all I got to say. And the Jacare fight where, we're out here making a case for Hermansson when he was a huge underdog. But those are two old men on the tail end of their career. Jared Cannonier he's not young and fresh, but he's at least in his prime, making developments every single time we see him fight. And he's a very scary guy. But that's why it's a risky fight. But that being said, you could also view it as a reward to Jack Hermansson, because you took that fight with Dave Branch. You took that short notice headlining spot against Jacare. Well, now we're coming to Copenhagen, Denmark for the very first time in UFC history. We want you to headline the card, and we're not going to give you, some guy that we're not going to give you Borrachina or anything like that. Go out here and finish a guy with 44% takedown defense in the main event in Denmark. And I think they're going to do that. I think they're going to build up a big star here. I think that Jack Hermansson's name is going to get taken to that next level. We are going to talk about him fighting the Borachinas, the Israel Adesanya's, the Robert Whitakers, the Kelvin Gastelums after this fight. I think he goes out here, like you said, starts off with those feints, with that movement. The thing about Jared Cannonier, man, is when he starts getting off on those kicks, you got to be careful. But if Jack does what he's supposed to do, gets him biting on those feints, then mixes in that body lock, gets him down on the mat, it will be over shortly after. I'm going to go with Jack Hermansson via ground and pound TKO. And now we got to hit up Kyle Marley for the Big Marley Minute. And joining us now on the Big Marley Minute is Big Marley himself. Kyle, it's going down this Saturday in Denmark. How's it going, man?
Hey, not too bad. Ready for the end of the week. We got a 11 a.m. card, so get to wake up and sweat some fights. Excited for that. Got $25K to first, and then I also got a max bet this week, so looking forward to it.
So in the main event, you got Jack Hermansson taking on Jared Cannonier, two of the rising stars now in the middleweight division, or at least emerging contenders. The thing with this fight from a DraftKings perspective, man, is I highly doubt you're going to be stacking this fight because someone most likely is getting a finish here. The question is, which side do you lean and how much are you going to have of both?
So I'm going to lean towards Hermansson here, and I'm probably going to have a good bit of him in GPPs. I just think he has so many more ways to win. And he can win early, get a takedown, get some advances, whole bunch of ground and pound. He scored like 140 points against Mearshart, so I love the ceiling on him. And since I am planning on going heavier than the field on him, I'm not against stacking the fight in cash just to kind of get a little hedge there. And it locks in the win, locks in 100-plus points. So I'm not against the stack. I'm rarely against the stack, really, for a 5-round fight. But I do think you can get away from it this week if you want and go Hermansson solo, just because Cannonier's only path to victory here is going to be a knockout. And if he gets it, it's probably round 1 or round 2. And for that reason, we want to throw him into some GPP lineups. So I'm probably thinking, 70% Hermansson, 60%. No, I'll go a little higher than 60. So like 65 to 70% Hermansson in GPPs. And then I am going to throw the rest on Cannonier. So it'd be, 30% on him as well, just to have some exposure in case that round 1 knockout does happen. I just think Jack has so many more ways to win. He's a way better fighter, and I think he does look for takedowns early and often. So he's one of my favorite plays on the slate, and he'll probably be the guy I have the most exposure to all around on DraftKings.
Isn't it cool seeing a guy like Hermansson in back-to-back main events after that kind of come up?
I mean, he definitely deserves it after that Jacare fight. I was so impressed after that fight that, I mean, it's a big step down here for Cannonier, really. So, yeah, it's definitely good for him that he's getting another main event spot, but this is like Cannonier's highlight right here. So hopefully he's not overlooking him.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be a bad idea, especially with a guy as dangerous as Cannonier. But, man, in the co-main event, you got the Danish silver medal Olympian, Marc Madsen. He's taking on Belwardo. So, basically, the question here is he going to come out here and knock this guy out in the first round, or is it going to be 3 rounds of takedowns, rinse, and repeat? Which way you leaning?
I think he probably does finish him, probably first round. But he does have one of the higher ceilings on the card. If he can rack up multiple takedowns and land a bunch of ground and pound before the ref steps in, he can score 100-plus no problem. And this is just a setup fight for him to get the win. So I like him a good bit. The only issue is affording him here. I like all these 9K fighters this week, so I want to mix them all in. And you can't pick them all in the same lineup, so you got to pick and choose. I do want to be heavier than the field on Madsen just because I think he is one of the more sure wins, in early first round possibly. So I don't know if I can get to, 50% exposure, but in my head, that's kind of what I'm looking at, what I would want to be with him. And then it's going to be a full fade on Belwardo. I mean, unless you want to throw him in one lineup, just because recently the cheapest guy on DraftKings has been winning people GPPs. Just for like superstitious reasons, if you want to throw him in one, that's the only reason I can think of. I don't see his path to victory here unless he knocks this guy out. And I don't think that's going to happen. So give me Madsen here. It's just 9,500 is a lot to pay.
Gunnar Nelson's taking on Gilbert Durinho Burns. It's the battle of the black belts. 2 very exciting guys at welterweight. Which way you leaning?
I'm leaning Burns here. I would lean Burns even harder if it wasn't short notice. But I don't know. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how this fight plays out, how much grappling takes place. I think it would be fun if we did see some grappling in this fight. But I don't know. It could just end up being a striking match. And if that happens, we're going to need a knockout for one of these guys to be on that 25K lineup. So I'm probably not going to target this fight too heavily. I think both sides are in play, but I would rather just go Burns. I don't know if I'll full fade Nelson here, but I'm not against it, especially if you're making, 5 or less lineups, then I would be fading him. And Burns, I'll take some shots on him because I think he does have knockout power. If this fight does go to the ground, I like him more there. I just don't love that this fight's on short notice, and I could see this being a 15-minute striking battle where we'd be lucky to get 10x in the decision. So won't be a fight I'm really forcing into any lineups, but I'll take Burns to get the win.
So in the light heavyweight division, you got a battle between two young sluggers, Khalil Rountree and Iwan Cutelaba. Man, these two are going to stand and bang. I know a lot of people have tried to talk about Cutelaba's Greco-Roman background, but it seems to me like the guy likes to knock people out. So who do you think is going to get the better of the exchanges here?
I'm going to go with the dog on this one. I just think it would be smart of him to make this a dirty fight and not strike with Rountree at range. So that's just what I'm going to, in my head, that's what I'm picturing him doing. So on a card where I don't love a lot of underdogs, he is one that I do like to get the win. And if he does win, he probably scores highly. I mean, we got for this fight to not go to decision, it's minus 285. So I always like that for GPPs. This is a great fight to target both sides of, but I'm going to be heavier on cute labia here. And I'm hoping that he does get the fight to the ground early and maybe gets a ground and pound finish or even a submission here. But if I'm going to go heavy on him, I want to be sure to have some Khalil lineups too, because I don't really trust Ion's fight IQ here. And if he is going to strike at range, he's probably going to end up getting knocked out. And Rountree at $8,400, if he gets the knockout, he's probably going to be on the nuts lineup. So one of the better GPP fights on the card. Not quite all in, but it is going to be in more than half the lineups that I create. GPP only, though, I wouldn't touch this fight in cash just because they both have super low floors.
Also in the light heavyweight division, you got Michal Oleksiejdczuk taking on Ovince St. Preux. Very exciting matchup, obviously, the new versus the old. But man, Ovince St. Preux is known for going out there, knocking guys out, getting submissions. You think he comes out here and gets the upset, or are you leaning with the favorite?
I'm going to lean with the favorite here. I just think Michael's the better fighter. He's on the way up. OSP is on the way down. And I think Michael's going to end up testing his chin. I think he does end up getting a knockout in this fight. So I do like him. The only issue is that I like all those 9K fighters. So I won't be able to afford too much of him because I like the fighters priced above him just a little bit more. And I think OSP is an interesting play because with this fight having a minus 325 fight doesn't go to a decision line. As a cheap underdog, I think he has one of the highest ceilings because I don't see Belluardo or Lansberg getting a first-round knockout, but OSP does have that potential in his game. So I'm not against targeting him a little bit heavily in GPPs just because I won't be able to afford as much Michael as I would like, but I want to target this fight heavily. So it's probably going to be in half my lineups, and I would guess something like 30% OSP, 20% Michael. But if you wanted to go heavier on either side, that's totally cool. It's just I would rather go Hermansson over Michael if I'm choosing 1v1, and right at that price range, I actually can't fit everybody in, so it's going to take away from his ownership. But I am going to pick him to get a first or second round knockout.
And last but not least, you got John Phillips taking on Alen Amedovski. Do you think there's going to be a case where they stand and bang until one man falls, or do you see Amedovski coming out here and trying to use some wrestling?
I think they are just going to stand and bang. But yeah, I don't know, man. This is one of the fights I've been going back and forth on who's going to win, on how it's going to play out. I could see it being not the most exciting striking fight, but a 15-minute striking fight where there's no finish and no takedowns. And in that case, it's not going to score highly. So we are relying on the knockout here with two guys who are probably not going to grapple. But Vegas thinks we're going to end inside the distance. They say minus 205, fight doesn't go to a decision. So usually I'll just lean with them. And that makes me want to target this fight on both sides. I think if this fight's just a brawl, I would favor Phillips. But if Amedovski can play it smart, I think he has more KO power, and I see him getting a counter knockout at some point in this fight. So he's going to be my preferred play, but this is another good fight that if you want to target both sides on and even go 50-50, I think that's fine because they're right there in the mid-range. But my preferred play is Amedovski, and I'm going to go a little bit heavier on him.
Well, Kyle, that's why you are the DraftKings guy for Half the Battles going down this Saturday in Copenhagen. They can follow you at Big Marley 3. Your bets and your write-ups are available at bestfightpicks.com.
That's right, man. We got a max play this weekend. I'm so confident this cashes that if you go buy it this week and it does not cash, we got the next week on me. But yeah, let's get this max play this week. I can't wait for it.
Well, now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So, Shaq, what is the fight to watch for UFC Denmark?
My fight to watch is going to be Alex Cowboy Oliveira versus Nicolas Dalby. Look, Alex has been pulling some stunts in there lately, so he's must-see TV at this point. You don't know what he's going to do. And Nicolas Dalby, this guy is a guy that has a habit of getting dropped in that first round. I feel like this is going to be sleeper for fight of the night. So, Alex Cowboy is must-see TV, and Dalby, man, this guy had a fight of the night with Till, had a great fight with Alessio. I mean, this guy brings it, man.
I mean, look, let's put it this way. Dalby's first 2 UFC opponents were Zaleski and Till, and he went undefeated. And that's just facts. I mean, I can't dispute that. You know what I'm saying? That's just facts. What happened since then, that's something else. But I can't wait for him versus Alex Cowboy. My fight to watch is going to be Alessio Di Chirico versus Makmud Muradov. Look, there's a lot of strong opinions on this fight, not just in terms of predictions, but in terms of the betting line. To tell me that this line went from minus 230 Alessio Di Chirico to plus 130 Alessio Di Chirico, I mean, that's not just a flip, my friends. That means that people are confident on Floyd Mayweather's protege to a point where they don't just think he's going to beat Alessio Di Chirico. They think he's going to run through him. And I think he's a very bright prospect. I want to see for myself. Alessio's no slouch. It's going to be a very exciting fight. For that reason, Alessio versus Makmud is my fight to watch. Well, Shaq, who is your fighter to watch for UFC Copenhagen?
My fighter to watch is going to be Michal Lord Oleksiejdczuk, 205. There's a lot of new guys coming in, and Ovince, like I said, is one of the most exciting 205ers of that old generation. And if Michal can come out here and get this name on his resume, what he's done in 4 fights is very impressive. To come out here and beat these guys that are much older than him. Michal's only 23, 24. So I feel like he's a fighter to watch. I love his body punching, his pace, his boxing, and I love how he's going out here and doing all these against guys that are a lot bigger than him. So Michal Oleksiejdczuk is my fighter to watch.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the fighters to watch. Huge fight for him this weekend versus Ovince. For me, my fighter to watch is Jack Shore. Look, this is a kid that's been hyped for such a long time, and now he's coming in here making this UFC debut on European soil. And the way people are talking about this kid is that not only is he going to win this fight, but he's a potential top 15 guy. And I'm very curious to see if that's the case. And this fight will let me know a lot. This fight will let me know a lot because if he goes to a close decision with Nohelin, then I'm going to talk about pumping the brakes. But if he runs through Nohelin like I think he's going to, like I think he should, we might actually have something on our hands here in terms of, another strong grappler in the bantamweight division. So we'll see what happens. And he also has a country behind him. I know the UFC love to get behind guys like that. It didn't work out with my boy Brett Johns. Maybe it works out with this kid. So Jack Shore is my fighter to watch. So before we wrap up the show, I just want to remind you guys to go to bestfightpicks.com and use that promo code Matador to save 15% off any VIP package. In addition to that, we're doing buy one, get one free. So you save 15% off this event, UFC Copenhagen, and then you get the next event free. On top of that, we're looking at a max bet here. The line is getting better, so go to bestfightpicks.com. Use that promo code Matador to save 15%. Thank you guys again for checking out the show. Make sure you follow me at Best Fight Picks. Follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05. Our Instagram, Best Fight Picks Official. My boy Shaq's Instagram, ShaqBFP. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify. I want to thank you guys so much for all your support. We're going to get back to those fan questions next week. And thank you guys for all the kind words last week on that week off. And you know that we wouldn't just take a week off for no reason. So thank you guys very much for all the support. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.